Well, National Signing Day is come and gone, ladies and gentlemen. A couple other guys are going to be making commitments later, either whether if it's today, Thursday, we're recording Thursday night, or tomorrow, Friday, is the deadline for those that want to sign their national letters of intent early, or they will have to wait for February. But welcome to the Purple Rain podcast. My name is Michael Terrazas. As always, joined by me is Adriana Arojo. Adriana, people haven't seen us for a little bit of time, but any new updates?
No, just honestly, just tired right now. Finals week. Got one more tomorrow at 8 a.m. and then I'm done. So just ready to be done with the semester, excited to just be able to relax. But besides that, excited to talk some updates. So
Hey, I feel that this whole week of being off from work is hitting right now. It is hitting right now. I mean, it's beautiful. You're gonna enjoy it. I don't want me to like throw it in your face or anything. I don't. Yeah. You're looking at me some kind of way, but guys, it was kind of a little bit of a roller coaster the last 48 hours, maybe even the last 72, because recruiting has been crazy. Updates, meetings or visits or phone calls, NIL, negotiate, whatever the case may be. It was crazy yesterday. Of course, we all heard the news of Travis Hunter, the number one recruit in the nation, 5-star, going to Florida State. Florida State thinks, hey, we have this guy the entire way. And like 2 hours before his decision, he notifies them, hey, I'm going to go to Jackson State. I love it. Honestly, I loved it. This is what we talked about, you and I, Adriana, when we were talking about Deion Sanders possibly coming to TCU. Clearly, he's going to bring some recruits, but a 5-star going to an HBCU, honestly, I love it. I want to see a little bit more of it. I want to see more of that. A lot of people always want to talk down on HBCUs. They don't have the resources. They don't have any of that. Well, if bigger recruits start to go, then you're going to get more exposure, more TV time, a lot more visits from NFL scouts, which is always big time. So I want to see that more, honestly, especially Jackson State. They are on the way up. Now, getting into some TCU, we'll get into a little bit more around the country, obviously some updates, but where the TCU Horned Frog stand, they have 9 current commitments to the 2022 class. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the staff, really fell on their face. They didn't end on a high note or anything. I would honestly disagree with all of those statements. Honestly, I would, because the fact that this staff has been on the job for like a little over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to make up the ground that they did on these recruits is phenomenal. They did lose out on some guys that I really liked. Chase Kennedy, I really liked him. We lost out on him. I mean, it's not because he didn't like TCU. It's not because he didn't give them the time of day or TCU didn't give him the time of day. There just wasn't enough time. He was always going to sign early. He wanted to sign early. He wants to enroll early is the biggest thing because he wants playing time. He ended up going elsewhere. My biggest one that I really wish we could have gotten was Justin Medlock. And it came down to TCU, Utah. Utah was with him the entire way, same staff and everything. And by the way, Utah, defending Pac-12 champions, just routed Oregon. They're always consistently a good program, consistently putting out great defensive talent. Even on my team, Julian Blackman, one of the better safeties in the league for the Colts. I mean, you look at Jalen Johnson in Chicago, Bradley Ncaa. I mean, even this year, their linebacker, Worley, is going to be a first-round draft pick. He's going to the right school, in my opinion. I think it would have been better, not better, but it would have been also good for him to go to TCU, but there's just not enough time. You can't talk NIL yet because they're a day late on announcing an NIL program. TCU is they're a day late, but as long as you get it going, it was a disappointment with how 22 ended for a lot of people because, we wanted bigger names, but NIL is here to stay. We'll get into that later on, but getting into the class, the first one we're going to get into is Jordan Hudson. We've talked about him very little on the show, Adriana, but to get into him now, coming out of Garland, Texas, Sonny Dykes mentioned him yesterday in his press conference, regarded as the best wide receiver in Texas. Personally, I probably won't go that far. I think he is top 5 in the state of Texas, honestly. His route running, his hands, I mean, the vision, getting in and out of his breaks, it's great. He wins at the line of scrimmage. That's a good sign, especially for early playing time. I love it. He stayed committed. He stayed true. Came over with Rashad Samples from SMU. This is a big get.
Yes, I was very excited about this one too, especially of the commitment to the staff. As you said, Samples recruited him. And again, cultivating relationships is really important. And I think just in general with the whole class, like those relationships are so important. And obviously Samples is so good at that. And I think that we were just a little bit behind with that. But you can see that the ones that they did have, they were able to capitalize on that. And I think this is definitely the biggest get in this class. So I was really excited that we were able to keep Jordan Hudson for sure. So this is probably the biggest one for me. And I know Sonny Dykes was definitely high praise. I think he might have gone a little too far. I would agree with that. But yeah, this is a big one for sure.
Yep. I mean, and you highlighted something that I want to touch on a little bit, relationships. To what I said earlier about there wasn't enough time. Joseph Gillespie just got here a week ago. He hasn't had the time to build relationships. So what Sonny Dykes is saying when he says recruiting your current players is more important than the high school recruits, he's legitimately saying that because they're already here. You're going to let the recruiters recruit. But like I mentioned, Justin Medlock already had a relationship with that Utah staff. And then TCU comes on, and the type of players we're going to go after is going to be a little bit different from what we saw with Gary Patterson. Even in this class right now, we're already seeing some different, I guess you could say, personalities, talents coming in. I know a lot of people, with Chase Biddle, a lot of people want to harp on him and everything. Let's keep in mind he's 17 years old. He's still growing up. So just always be mindful of that. But the relationships is definitely big. I know on the last show we mentioned Matthew Golden. TCU lost ground on him. He was going to Houston. He ended up going to Houston, former TCU commit. Another former TCU commit was CJ Nelson, who is also going to Houston as well. Their relationship with the wide receivers coach and Dana Holgerson is, honestly, from what I was told, it's up there with their relationship with Malcolm Kelly, with Sonny Dykes. But not having an inside receivers coach was kind of a little bit questionable for Matthew. And then all of a sudden wanted to finally name Doug Meacham, and it was just a little bit too late. So relationships are important. I mean, you even see right now, all of our, some of our defensive linemen current and defensive linemen we had committed followed Zarnell Fitch to Texas Tech. And his mold of defensive lineman versus Chidera's mold of defensive lineman are different. And we're going to see that moving forward in the class. The next recruit that I want to highlight is who I mentioned, Chase Biddle, a safety who I think early on, I don't think he's going to enroll early. So he'll get here in the summer. He'll get here in the fall. Probably won't see playing time first year, maybe. But I think this is a guy that the traits, of course, he's still 17, 18. He'll develop, he'll mature physically, I guess emotionally, I don't know. But Adriana, this is a guy I'm probably a little bit more excited about than Jordan Hudson because I love defense personally. But tell me about Chase Biddle.
I think just in general, this is a position that I had a lot of frustrations with because I think a lot of times we mismanage personnel. So I'm just excited to see what he can come in and add to the team. I know in the past we've talked about just like his ability, like in speed and stuff. So I think for him, that's going to be the biggest thing for me is just seeing how he can use that on the field to make plays. Because like I said, this year I had a lot of frustrations in that position and it just drove me nuts. And I think that was probably one of our biggest weaknesses, at least that I saw defensively. and we just got burned so many times there. So I'm excited to see what he can come in and bring, and maybe compete with some of these guys right now. I think he definitely has a good shot.
Honestly, you're right. Because the safety, I mean, when Bud Clark went down, he was our best safety, in my opinion. When he went down, you kind of get, okay, so who's going to step up? You know, name recognition, you're always going to think, okay, well, this guy can do it. But in that system is different. This system now, I think, suits Chase Biddle more than if he was coming into the 4-2-5 with Gary Patterson's nickel defense. With this, a stack concept, the coverages are going to be a lot more simpler. They're going to be a lot more complex. And I think he can execute those. How early will he get playing time will remain to be seen, depending on, I mean, if he just lights it up in fall camp, why not? Why not? I know Gary Patterson's still not like talking anything negative, but his thing was you have to know what to do. You have to know where you're going. And in his system was very complicated. You needed to be a smart football player to play in that system. So it kind of did take some time, but with Biddle, I'm very intrigued to see how quickly he can get on the field. If he can get on the field in his freshman year, that tells me a lot about him, honestly, as a football player. I don't know too much about him, who he is, how high IQ he has. But if he plays his freshman year, we're going to know a lot about him. Moving on here, 3-star defensive end out of Rowlett, Texas, representing the Rowlett Eagles, Michael Okioti. This is a guy who came up after the new regime. With the new regime, with Chidera, the relationships, again, this is a guy who had a strong relationship with Chidera, the defensive line coach. Looking at his film, it'll take him some time to develop, in my opinion. Is he going to play inside, outside? I don't know yet. I don't think he's going to be inside, honestly, but being outside, especially when you have Mathis, Horton, Coleman, probably hearing some stuff about him right now, not leaving the program or anything, but maybe a position change to linebacker. That remains to be seen. But with Michael, I think maybe a little bit of developing is going to help him. The athletic traits, I want to see a little bit more, but that's why we have Kaz in here, the strength and conditioning coach, help that flip hip explosion coming out of the break, coming out of your stance. So, Adriana, the staff has made an emphasis on the trenches, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. We're going to discuss our first of many in this class. What are we getting in Mike?
I think for him, the biggest thing, and you mentioned it, is development. So I think the potential's there, and he's going to be surrounded by a lot of guys that are, the veterans. They know what they're doing. So I think just utilizing the skills that he already has and learning from the people around him is going to be the biggest thing for him. And I think that maybe, first year or two, maybe we won't maybe see him as much, but I think that the traits are definitely there and the potential is there. So I think down the line, we could definitely see something big come up of him. But I think just at the beginning, it won't be as prevalent. But I think it's definitely there for sure. It's definitely a good get, but it's some development's going to have to happen for sure.
Yeah. I like it. Next one coming up is going to be Dominic Williams. Now, this recruitment was all over the place in the last 24, 48 hours. I don't know what's going on. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. A long time commitment to Cal. All right. California. Chidera's pulling the strings a little bit. Brian Carrington going back to California, pulling the strings a little bit. Oh, I'm going to stay with Cal, but you know what? I'm going to decommit from California. I'm going to silent commit to TCU. A few hours later, oh, man, I'm going to stay with California. And then the next day on signing day, I'm signing with TCU. Like, this was crazy. But, guys, I want you to understand, for those that you always say, these kids are all over the place or they don't know what they want, or this is recruiting, recruiting changes in the blink of an eye. I mean, if you probably heard my snap, in a blink of an eye, it changes, and it changes fast. We saw that development with Matthew Golden, but with Dominic Williams, he did go back and forth a little bit, but ultimately in our, we benefited from it. Choosing TCU, this guy, I think, is going to be our future starting nose tackle in this scheme, in my opinion. Probably in the next 2 to 3 years, he will. I don't expect it to be year one, because we'll see what happens with the transfer portal. But this guy is a lane clogger. And honestly, if I was to compare him to somebody, this is who you want in a Joseph Gillespie defense. Go to Tulsa. Who is their defensive tackle? Jackson Player, a guy who I watched for 3 years at Midway, playing in our high school district. He clogs up lanes. He's not going to do too much of pass rush, but what Jackson Player does at Tulsa is clog up lanes. He doesn't get moved as a nose tackle, and that helps the linebackers in the run game. What Dominic Williams is able to do, obviously, is off the charts, in my opinion. Sitting at 6'2", let me get this right here. 6'2", and that is 325 pounds. That is a big dude who is not moving anywhere. He's not. So this is a staple of what we're going to see. I think we won't see a Ross Blacklock type defensive tackle. If we will, man, I'm really excited for that. But these types of prototypical nose tackles that Gillespie and Chidera are going to be looking for is Dominic Williams. That traits, the prototypes, the everything. So in saying that, Adriana, do you think Dominic Williams is our future nose tackle? And if so, what are one of the things that pop off about you?
Oh, I definitely agree. I would probably agree as far as what you mentioned is size. And one of the other things that I want to also touch on is I was really excited about this commitment. And one of the things that I read in an article, I don't know how true it is that he mentioned that he fell in love with like DFW and the area and like the energy around football in Texas. And I think one of the things that, I would assume is what happened is this staff that we have they know so much about the area. Sonny Dykes was at TCU before, then he was in SMU, so he's at Dallas, came back. They know this area so well, and they know how to tap into like the community and how to advertise it and sell it in this environment and the energy. So I think that's also another really important thing because, I'm from Fort Worth. I've lived here. I go to TCU. I decided to stay here for college. Like, I love it here. So I'm definitely a big fan. But I think that that's also going to be something that's really important going forward is this staff knows that this city and this area is something so important to remind recruits when they're going on the recruiting trail, like to advertise to them. So I think going forward, like that's another thing to keep in mind is that's also a really big selling point. And then now with NIL, I know we're going to get into that later, but the community is going to become an even bigger part, especially with making deals with local businesses and things of that nature for deals and stuff like that.
Well said. DFW, such a beautiful place. I visited there a couple of times. I love it so much. Hopefully it's my future home, but not talking about my future on this podcast. We are going to continue with Paul. Man, I don't want to butcher his name, but I'm going to say it. Paul Oiwale. I'm going to say that. Paul Oiwale. All right. I haven't heard a correct pronunciation for his name yet. I'm going to look into that, obviously, so I can be better in the future. But 3-star defensive end coming out of Langham Creek, basically Houston, Texas. A guy who I think he's a better, watching his high school tape, a better run stopper than a pass rusher, in my opinion. Of course, development, get into the facility, get into the weight room, shed some weight, get more explosive, get more technique, get a few moves in. We'll see where it goes. A 3-star out of Houston, it's another good piece. You know, not every recruit is going to be, I guess you could say, in my opinion, don't expect every single one to come in here with starter expectations, NFL expectations. You need depth on teams. You need them. Why Alabama is so good is because they have depth. Regardless if there's nothing but 4 or 5 stars on the roster and those 4 stars don't see playing time for 2-3 years, one guy goes down, the next one steps right in, and he's just as talented. That's why they don't lose talent at wide receiver. They just lost, 3 first-round picks, and in comes another set of first-round picks. John Mechie tore his ACL. Another first-round pick is stepping in for him, in my opinion, in the next couple of years. So you got to have depth, quality depth. And I think that's who Paul is. Of course, I wish nothing but the best for every recruit that comes into TCU. But I think for Paul, his future at TCU is probably going to be a little bit more of a depth. A depth piece. So, Adriana, while I try to get myself together and not die over here, can you talk to the people about Paul?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Another development and, get in there and work on the potential that he has. And I think a lot of the pieces that we gain in this recruitment, recruitment session is just getting in there and just working on the potential that we have and developing those guys. And I think a lot of times with teams like this, just being around other people that are positive influences on each other, like a lot of times that just makes everyone else better. So I think just collectively, that's going to be a really positive environment. I think the staff that we have is going to be really good at developing this talent. And obviously these guys trust the staff. So I think Paul is definitely going to be, I would say for him, I would say that he's probably one of the people that I'm more excited about as far as developmentally, for sure. And then I know too, one of the other things that he mentioned is like he visited and he was really excited, like academics, campus, staff, just everything. He's like, there's just nothing that I didn't like. I think he visited officially on the 5th or something. So he officially visited pretty recently. And he was just overall, everything that I saw was awesome. So that was another just awesome thing to hear. You always want people to just be in general happy with everything holistically. So that was awesome.
I agree. Getting into another recruit who's going to be on the offensive line is going to be Quentin Harris, former TCU commit. We flipped him on signing day, 6'7", mountain of a man, 285 pounds. This is a guy, now I did just get saying don't have starter expectations, but this is just giving my opinion. My opinion could be way off, and these guys could start year one, play year one, or turn out to be household names, whatever the case may be. But with Quentin Harris, I see him as a future tackle for our team. Now, watching his tape a little bit, I don't know if it's at right or left yet because they're two completely different positions. We think, it's just tackle. No, they're two completely different positions. I do envision him being a starting tackle for us, honestly. I really do. I like what I see. The talent that he's gone against, he's gone up against some quality 3-star defensive ends. He went up against a 4-star defensive end earlier this year and had a good showing. So I like it. Quentin Harris, again, SMU commit, flipped him on National Signing Day. I love it.
Yeah, in addition to that, we really need people. We have a lot of holes at that position, so he's going to be really important there. So I think talent-wise, it's going to be really important for him to develop, even if that's not there. But I think he definitely has a lot of important things. But for sure, we have so many holes in that area. So we're definitely so this commit was really important. But going forward too, we're going to have to look at the transfer portal for that position just in general, because we have so many gaps right there right now.
Offensive line, yes. I think Andrew Coker, I think he's a good piece. Esteban Avila proved himself moving inside, leaving tackle alone, moving inside, being center. Definitely helped him out. But the other three positions, we need help on. So I'm comfortable with those two guys, and they're two young guys. So I'm good with that. Moving on here, we're going to go with the gunslinger out of Rockwall Heath. Still got a bone to pick with this man. But putting that aside from what he did in high school, this guy is one of the better quarterbacks in the state. I mean, he is a gunslinger, played for Coach Mike Spradlin at Rockwall Heath. His offense, he was a head coach at Temple where I live. And even that offense, his current quarterback coach, Chad President, was the quarterback for the Temple Wildcats. That offense threw the ball all over the place. They were high octane offense, and that's what they were at Rockwall. Had some quality wide receivers. My biggest thing when watching his tape, okay, now I don't want to get y'all excited or anything. He's starting year one. He's going to go over Chandler or Max, but is the ball placement of this kid. You know, forgetting about whatever velocity or arm power, whatever the case may be, his precision and his accuracy is what stood out to me. If you have precision and accuracy, he is mobile. He can move around the pocket, dance around the pocket, evade, you know, whatever the case may be, roll out. He can do it. Accuracy is the number one calling for this kid. Again, he did beat out a couple of great quarterbacks when he was at the Elite 11 in Dallas. Quinn Ewers, Cade Klubnik, to name a few. He did. And I'm actually excited for this kid. When is he going to get the opportunity? How's his development going to go? Whatever the case may be, getting with Garrett Riley is going to be big. It's going to be big. So I don't know about you, Adriana, but I'm excited about this kid. I am. Straight A student, you know, class kid, all that, former Indiana commit, coming to TCU. I'm looking forward to him.
Yeah, I'm very excited about him. I'm definitely curious how the quarterback situation is going to play out. I know, you know, Max, Chandler, now Josh. I think we have several good guys right now. And I think, you know, just watching what Josh can do, like he looks like he can play pretty well. Translation-wise and transition to the collegiate level should be interesting. I think that would be my biggest concern and curiosity. And I don't know. I think sometimes I always just kind of wonder how that transition will be. And a lot of times, too, fan bases don't want to wait, especially with a new coach. With a new coach, a lot of times the expectations are so high, and I think they don't have they want results right away. And I know, hey, hook 'em, but like we've experienced that like so much. And so I just wouldn't want that for Josh, I guess. And I don't think that would happen at all, but I think that would be my only concern if he would get the starting job year one. But I do think that he is a really quality quarterback for sure. So I'm definitely very excited about him.
For a kid that averaged 38 passes a game, knowing what we know about Sonny Dykes' program, his offense, you throw the ball a lot. This is the type of kid you're looking for this offense. So I'll take it. Again, throwing that many times, the accuracy, the poise. I mean, his release is also good. I compare his release to Trevon Boykin. How quick his release was. I love it. I love it. Now, I do know what you're saying, Adriana. We want results right away. I was in that boat with Max Duggan because I knew as soon as the news broke, Alex Delton is transferring to TCU and he was named the starter. I thought, man, this season isn't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And then I even remember I went to that opening game against Arkansas Pine Bluff. I was in the stands for that game. Everybody was crying and pleading for Max Duggan. They were doing it because Alex Delton just wasn't it. So I was just sitting there. I'm like, okay, can we see this kid already? Can we see him already? I don't even care if he knows 30% of the playbook. Use those 30% plays. Just do that. I know what you mean right there. Getting into two more guys. Quick update about one of the recruits that we're chasing right now. A couple of them, obviously. 4-star wide receiver DJ Allen hasn't decided yet. We don't really know if he's going to sign here or in February. He's still getting his options together. I do like TCU's chances, though. Another wide receiver, getting some more athletic wide receivers in here. I do like their chances. I don't know if he's going to go to TCU yet. That remains to be seen. AJ Allen, I honestly thought was going to announce wherever he was going. He was going to announce yesterday, but again, the deadline for him to announce is tomorrow on Friday or today, whenever you're listening to this. So that's going to be interesting. Right now, I believe it's just really between TCU and Mississippi State. I really, this is a guy that I would really love to have, because with Zach Evans going out, Kendre Miller is the guy, DeMarque Foster. I think right now, I would probably say AJ Allen is better than DeMarque Foster. In my opinion, the speed, the precision, the vision, I would say you can come in and get playing time. You can. Now, all the other stuff, I don't know. I'm not in that recruitment. I'm not him. I'm not a brother or anything. I don't know the details. But it is between TCU and Mississippi State. And where is he going to go? I don't know, but I do really hope it's TCU. Get some more scholarship guys, get some more talent in that running back room to give us some depth. Now, moving on, two more recruits we're going to talk about. Major Everhart, 5'11", regarded as one of the fastest, if not the fastest player in Texas. And Sonny Dykes did mention yesterday in his press conference that the number one thing they're looking for in every recruit they look for is speed. Speed. So clearly this guy fits the bill. He is a running back, but Sonny Dykes said he will be an inside receiver. He will be a slot guy, which is beautiful. Perfect. That speed does not need to be in the backfield. Put him on the outside and have his ass just take over the top. That's easy for me. I love it. I'll take it. I love what we're getting in Major. He just flies. That's every time he got the ball in high school. I mean, just go look at his film. He flies. Every time he touches the ball, zoom. Adriana, we're getting us a speedster, a guy that I think every offense needs. Major Everhart, talk to us.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the frustrations that I had last year, not to like criticize, I guess, the staff last year, but I would say one of the things that excites me is that they obviously know what they have in Major. And so they're going to capitalize on his speed and manage the personnel that they have correctly. And so I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing for me is I'm really excited about that they know the guys that they have, they know the skills that they have, and they know how to utilize that correctly. Because I think there was a lot of instances last year that they didn't necessarily put the guys in the best position to succeed. And that was really frustrating because if we would have just played to our skills, I think we would have had a lot better outcomes at times.
Don't even feel bad that you said that. I agree with you. Don't even feel bad. I got a big thing for speed, and I love it. The fact that they've already discussed this, and I mean, Major Everhart doesn't sign his national letter of intent without knowing those details. That's part of the recruitment. What is our plan for you? Where are you going to be playing? All that stuff. So just a quick question for you, Adriana. By any chance, you going to be going to the state championship games?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Unfortunately, I won't either because I have a game to cover Saturday night for the Colts. But the next guy that we're going to talk about is honestly my favorite recruit in this class. And he's playing in the state championship for South Oak Cliff, Kyron Chambers. 6 foot, 195. This guy, I think, who do I compare him to at corner? And I'm not even going to lie to you. Without the injuries, I think Kyron Chambers is on Noah Daniels' level. When his college career is all said and done and he's going to the NFL, I think he is on Noah Daniels' level without the injuries. He can play physical. He can be in press man. He can play zone. He's a willing tackler. I love everything about his game. Everything. How he's a 3-star is beyond me. That is hypocrisy right there. That is ludicrous. How he's just a 3-star. But he's a TCU Horned Frog, which is what I care about most. This is a guy who is a former Arizona commit. I love everything. In this scheme, he's going to be helped out a little bit more, with Coach P. He would be left on an island a lot. And that's something who I think he could be able to do. But in this scheme, having over-the-top safety help, having inside linebacker help, whatever, Coach Gillespie wants to disguise as coverage, Chambers is going to have a lot of help. And I think where he excels most is in zone rather than man. And I still think he's pretty good because he went up against some good wide receivers in the state of Texas, especially in this playoff run. This is easily, honestly, don't just think it because I'm saying it, but out of this whole entire class and probably even last year's class, Kyron Chambers is my favorite recruit out of the last 2 years, easily.
Yeah, I'm definitely very excited about him and just the state championship alone. I mean, obviously has had a big role in that. And again, the island comment is big because I think that was also another kind of going back to what I said earlier, personnel, very important. And I think that what the system we're going to have this upcoming year is probably going to put him in the perfect position for what he's able to do. So I'm definitely really excited to see him play and see what he can do. But I think that he's a much better get than he seems because of his rating, for sure.
Yes. I mean, with Justin Medlock, man, I would have loved Justin Medlock so much. He probably would have been 1A or 1B with Chambers for me playing linebacker. I loved his game, but Chambers, I don't know why, man. I'm just glued to this guy. I keep going back and watching the film, even though I've watched it so many times already. I'm just in awe of how good he's playing in high school against some pretty good wide receivers. Some pretty good wide receivers who are going to the likes of Tulsa, who are going to Mississippi State, who are going to Ole Miss, who are going to Baylor, they're going to Power 5 schools, notable Power 5 schools. Easily my favorite. But guys, that is a wrap on the talk of our so far. It's not done yet. Hopefully it's not done yet. Hopefully we're going to get about 3 or 4 more guys, whether if it's tomorrow or the later signing period. Right now, where the Horned Frogs stand is 61 nationally. If they can get AJ Allen committed, if they can get DJ Allen committed, if they can get a couple guys that they're looking for out there as well, don't know the names of those guys yet, but hopefully we'll get to see that ranking boost up a little bit more. I mean, right now, I wouldn't get too caught up in the ranking, only because, again, like I mentioned in the show earlier, the staff just didn't have enough time to go out there and already start building on relationships. I mean, you go back, I think we've seen it on Twitter. You go back to national powerhouses where they rank in the recruiting class. USC is all the way down like at 98. Florida is like at 76. I mean, there are some other programs that are low and they're going through new coaching changes. So right now, the way they ended it is honestly impressive, in my opinion. It's still impressive the way they ended it, and where they can go in 2023 and beyond. That's what we got to pay attention to, because I think they can really, really hit the ground running now that they have a full NIL program set in stone moving forward. Speaking of NIL, we're going to go ahead and get into this, guys, because this is going to be part of college football. Okay. I am still 100% on board with college athletes, men or women, getting paid for their services, bringing much more exposure to the university, bringing a lot more eyes, a lot more, I guess you could say, capital to the university, all the visits, everything like that. Pay them for their services. Where it's, I guess you could say, probably maybe getting out of hand or something. I mean, this is the game. This is the game now, and this is college football. We've seen Dabo Swinney come out, speak against it, talking about too much college galore, grown men, too much grown men manipulating young men. Education is not number one anymore. First off, I don't know when education was ever number one with college students. I don't know what Dabo was talking about, but education, these guys and women go to school because they have to get to the pros. Now, if the NFL created a league like the NBA did, the G League, you can now come to the G League, get paid, develop. You'll still go to the draft. You don't have to go to school. I promise you a lot of guys will do it, but also a lot of other guys in college basketball go to college because they want to wear a Duke Blue Devil jersey, because they want to wear a Kansas Jayhawk jersey they want to put on for that. So that's what I have to say about that. Obviously with NIL, I mean, I guess you could say the biggest program that benefited the most from NIL during the recruitment, two programs come to mind. One is down in Austin in Texas. The other one I would probably have to say Utah, honestly. And I think a lot of people are probably struck like, what the hell, Utah? Like, I was expecting Alabama. No, Utah benefited a lot. They did. I mean, and rightfully so. They're Pac-12 champions. They're one of the most consistent programs in the country, year in and year out. So when it comes to, let's go to Texas because they're still in the Big 12. They're cross-state rival. We'll get to Utah here in a little bit. So Adriana, you know this. They cut, NIL programs. It's probably the most lucrative NIL program in the country. Texas boosters came together. I mean, these kids, God damn, man, they don't even got to fill out applications, bro. Like, damn, why couldn't I have been born like 20 years, like, later? Like, golly. Offensive linemen are getting paid $50,000 to play offensive lineman. Not even that. Not even to play. If you're just on scholarship, you're getting $50,000. That means if you're on the bench for 3 years, you've made $150,000. That is crazy. That's just crazy. Now, some people might look at it, oh my gosh, that's unfair. They can't do that. Well, they can because it's NIL. And credit to Texas. I mean, you have an advantage. You have the money, clearly. So to get an advantage in this game, we're going to use what we have. And that's, I mean, even with Cameron Williams, I mentioned earlier, a few others who weren't even thinking about Texas. I know one guy was going to go to, they were going to go to Tennessee, but NIL came up, went to Texas. There was a wide receiver who was going to go to Florida State. NIL came up, went to Texas. There was a few other. There's all these kids did not just go to Texas because I want to wear a Longhorn jersey. NIL. So don't do that. Don't do that, Adriana. I don't know. You guys can't see what she did, but she did a little eye roll. Don't do that. Don't do that.
You never know. I'm just kidding.
There's guys for Jalen. I know Jalen Gilbo for a fact. Former TCU commit. I know for a fact he wanted to put on for Texas. He wanted to wear the Longhorn on his helmet. I do know that for sure. But a few more other guys, NIL, money talks. And this is the game that you have to play in college football now. Thankfully, TCU is getting together an NIL program. We don't know the numbers yet. We don't know. I don't know if it will be disclosed publicly yet. I don't know. They're still working that out. I forgot his name, but the owner of Chicken Express is kind of spearheading it. I mean, hey, If he got it, I mean, go ahead. So Adrian, I want to get you in this a little bit, especially harping on Texas a little bit. Don't get out of line now, okay? Don't go too crazy. Texas is clearly getting way ahead of schedule. A lot more than 90% of these programs in college football. They're playing the game. They are playing it the best way they know how, and they're getting ahead. Regardless of, if people want to say, oh, they can't do that, man, suck it up. Yes, they can, because that's the game now. So I want to bring you in this conversation and talk about where NIL is headed.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. NIL is something that I think for the longest time, and I still think this, like I've always thought that college athletes should be paid. I mean, it's so much time, it's so much work, they bring in so much revenue. But I think I didn't expect the ramifications to be like this. I guess I figured that if the NCAA ever did allow them to be paid, that there would be much more restrictions on it, because in the past the restrictions have been so severe, and so and like they have so many rules and regulations. So I guess I just didn't realize that it would be this much of like a free-for-all, I guess. So I just think that right now it's just really crazy, and I definitely do expect them to which I don't know how they would do this, but I do expect them to somehow add rules and stuff. I don't know how it would work as far as deals, because I'm sure a lot of universities, such as Texas, have already made commitments and promises and things of that nature, have scholarship programs, quote unquote. So I don't know how that would work, but I definitely do expect the NCAA to somehow, I don't know, I just don't see them letting it keep going like this. Maybe they do, but I just know in the past, just because their rules have been so strict, I just don't really see it continuing, but we'll see. I know TCU specifically, I know they've partnered with the Neely School of Business, really good business school. I'm in it. But it's a really, really good business school. They've partnered together. They've had multiple conferences with the dean and the athletic director. The meeting was at like 7 a.m. So I have to admit, I didn't go. I had class and I probably could have gone for an hour, but it was a little early for me. So
Right.
And but I know they discussed how that was going to work and how they were going to help athletes that were interested utilize some of the business connections that the Neely School already has and help them kind of build their brand and things of that nature. So I know they've been working on that. Of course, yeah, they just announced their NIL initiative. Again, it's a little late, but
Right.
but I guess. And then as far as UT, I don't know. I also don't know how well it's going to work out for them, because they also have so many guys also. And I do expect a lot of like transfers after a while, because I don't know how well it's going to work and how many commitments they can make. But again, they do have such a large alumni basis and fans and donors and just so many just committed people that will donate and are so invested at the football program. But I know one of the things that we've talked in the past when Jeff was on is that they're so involved to a fault, and that especially with the coaching decisions and things of that nature, it's like they're so involved that at times they shouldn't be, and it's like, let them do football and do their thing and stay out of it. And so honestly, I don't know in what way it'll hurt them, but I don't know. I see it hurting them in some way, that they get over involved. Again, how does that happen? Couldn't tell you, but I definitely could foresee it somehow.
Yeah. I mean, you're on the right track. That's what I have to say. You're on the right track. Are they going to get in trouble? Or I don't think they're going to get in trouble. Will the NCAA implement rules? Okay, yeah, but we see how that goes with the NBA. And the free agency period is June 1st, but deals are already being announced May 28th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on now. Like, this is
We
ridiculous. Right. Like, we already know. Come on now. I mean, if you want to add rules, okay, what difference is it going to make between them and the NBA or the NFL? Same thing happens in the NFL. Just, I guess, put in rules. I guess, I don't know. Like, what rule can you put on a program and say you can't put this much money into this? Like, it's crazy. And for everybody, you know, there's been a few people out there. This is getting ridiculous. You know, this wasn't happening before. You really think college dudes playing football are going to school with a new watch, some new J's, and a new MacBook because their parents got them for them? Really? That is probably the case. They probably got them a car, but they did get a check cut for them to attend their school. Let's just be all the way real about it, okay? I know a couple of players that got cut a check to come to TCU. So let's not play that card, okay? Another bone I got to pick are some coaches, you know, trying to reap benefits from NIL, okay? Now, Adriana, I am not intentionally throwing shots at Texas, okay? But this loudmouth keeps wanting to mention we are bringing in the right culture players. No, that's not what's going on. Your money is pushing those guys out so you could try and create an advantage. That's what college football is, creating an advantage. But I'll just have to say, there is not a Texas donor check they can cash to keep Kansas from dropping 57 on your head. Okay. I'll just say that. Don't roll your eyes, Adrian. Okay. Don't roll your eyes. But even with Vanderbilt, even with Georgia, even with it wasn't Clemson, Boston College, even with these other programs coming out and trying to, you know, flaunt all this stuff, like, man, don't be so invested into another grown man's pockets, man. I can't do that. I mean, if TCU announces an NIL deal, great. I'm not gonna go get into all of Jesus's money, like, oh, and flaunt this man's money. That ain't got anything to do with me. He ain't paying my bills. I ain't gotta talk about it. So where we are is just where we are. It is, you know, sitting here thinking about it, hearing Sonny talk, hearing about what the criteria was for looking for a new coach. Jeremiah Donati said, getting ahead on the road in name, image, and likeness. And Sonny Dykes talked about it. Name, image, and likeness is here to stay. And he even referenced name, image, and likeness had a big deal with why they didn't get a few recruits. Kyron Williams going to Texas is one of them. He is. TCU may have been able to offer maybe what, like 13,000 maybe, because without a true NIL program settled, they could have offered them that or go get 50,000. Come on now. You're going to go to the money. And plus Austin, Party City and everything. Come on now. It's here to stay. And what I appreciate about Sonny Dykes is he's confronting it and he's embracing it. That's one of the bigger things that we did not see with the previous regime. That's one of the things that is going to help TCU moving forward. Details are still going to be coming out in the later weeks about this NIL program. I believe our insider, Adriana Arojo, inside the School of Business, is going to have more updates for us. So she is a high-ranking source there at the School of Business. Probably. I probably sold her too high, too strong. Delivery was too strong. Let's bring it back a little bit. She's good. All right. So what you got for us?
I actually have two things to say.
Okay.
One is just in response is that,
oh Lord.
Okay, well, it's like, I just wanted to say this is like, oh man, I hate to like be I hate to say this, right? But it's like, also, you started this. Texas did lose to Kansas, but imagine losing to the team that lost to Kansas. Just saying.
Wait, what?
Also, I said Texas.
Oh, okay. I got it.
It's the fact that I had to say it twice. Yikes. Anyway.
Let's not bring up the record of between the two said schools since that other school joined the conference. Let's not bring that up. Okay. Continue.
Totally fair. Anyway, the other thing is just, I think NIL, like, in general, is going to be super prevalent, but I think the way that a lot of the smaller schools are going to catch up is like the kind of like holistic experience, which is one of the things that we talked about earlier. And I think that DFW and this whole area, especially like Fort Worth, is going to play like a huge part in that. And so I think once TCU gets that program and starts utilizing more of those connections, I think that the city is going to play a huge role in that. So I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. Unfortunately, it's took us a little bit to announce some of this stuff. And I think that we still won't be able to compete the same way as some of these other bigger schools, but we'll definitely be able to make up some ground and won't lose as many recruits as we did maybe this last session. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how a lot of this plays out, especially some of the reactions. I know the Dabo quote was probably one of the most interesting to me, just because I was like, okay, dude, like fair, but like education, but also, I don't know if that was ever like one of the biggest priorities.
That is never, ain't no recruit ever looked at, well, if I'm going to play football here, man, let me look into this program. Man, come on now. Come on. Let's just be real with ourselves. Other than that, guys, I don't know if we have anything else for you on the recruiting front. The staff, I believe, now is finalized. Doug Meacham was the last hire for inside receivers coach for the staff now. Looking for the transfer portal. Oh, to talk about some transfers that are leaving, I do have a list here. Some guys, we are seeing an exodus from the program. So starting with, it is official, running back Zach Evans has entered the portal. Cornerback Keon Stewart, basically almost a starter, probably a second string, is entering the portal. Davion Armstead is entering the portal. Safety. Defensive end Chris Murray is entering the portal. Running back DB Amani Watkins, who had to play fill-in at the end of the season for running back. Defensive tackle Earl Barquette, who is going to USC, who he's already announced that. Defensive tackle Patrick Jenkins. Safety Michael Yo-Yo. DB Donovan Collins. That is where we stand with the transfers right now. Sonny Dykes did mention we're going to be looking to bring in about 20 transfers. That is insane. We already brought in one of them, Terrence Cooks, linebacker coming over from Texas. So, guys, look out. This is going to be a crazy first year for this staff, and I'm excited to see it. Honestly, I do like where we're headed. NIL finally getting that going in there. The more details that will come out, we will bring them to you next week. But other than that, I guess that's it for us tonight, huh, Adriana?
Yes, definitely. I'm excited about the transfer portal. I mean, that's a big number, but we've seen him utilize that before, so it'll be interesting for sure.
Hey, Marvin Mims might be coming to TCU. You never know. I mean, now that we lost out on Matthew Golden and CJ Nelson, so I guess I'll take him. I'll take him. What?
I said that before, and you were like,
you did say that. Oh, you did say that. Yes, yes. Because I wanted Matthew Golden. I wanted that dude. Like, I'm sad. I'm gonna cry again. So, all right, guys. Well, this is gonna be it for this episode. Be sure to follow Adriana on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow the podcast on Twitter. Those links will be down below on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, get to YouTube first off and find those links there. So, guys, she is Adriana. I am Michael. We will be back next week. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and probably talking about the semifinal, more TCU updates, and getting into TCU basketball, who is the number one offensive rebounding team in the nation. Suck it, okay? Eddie Lampkin going to the pros, future Maverick, because we can't secure a freaking rebound against the Lakers, okay? So, other than that, we'll see you next time, guys. Go Frogs.